Hey friends, welcome back. This is Ashley with Uncommon Roots Homestead. It is early, barely 6 o'clock, and I wanted to take you on a day in my life. A couple weeks ago, Kevin took you on a day in his life and showed you what it looked like to be at the land for a few hours every day and kind of what he did while he was over there. So I wanted to take you on a day in mine where I get up early and head over to the land to milk the cow, come back to do some work, and then we head back over in the afternoon. I get a lot of questions on how do you balance having a homestead, especially a homestead in a different location, and working full-time in corporate America, and I'm gonna show you how. All right, so I have grabbed both my milking cans. They're clean. I clean them when I come back from milking, so they're always ready for the next morning. I also filled up my small milk can with some hot water. That's not going to impact anything in terms of cleanliness, and it allows me to clean Jeannie when I get there. So I actually pour that hot water into my plastic bucket over at the land to clean her off, so I don't have to go and walk all the way to the water and walk back when I get there. All right, so we made it over to the land. So today we have the luxury of the kids are at my parents' house. So Kevin is actually going to be over here shortly. But when I first get here in the morning, usually I can see Daisy and Jeannie out there. So Daisy. Originally, if you caught the last video, you know that we named her Lady. Kevin really liked it because Jeannie's name is technically Blue Jean Baby. A lot of registered cows have like odd names like that. So it's from the song. And so that song goes, Blue Jean Baby, LA Lady. And so we thought, oh, she had a girl, we'll name her Lady. Well, then Daisy, like when she was like 2 days old, she plopped down in the middle of all of these daisies, and it was the most like beautiful picture ever. One of my friends joked that she was ready for her newborn pictures. So we just couldn't help it. She seems more like a daisy than a lady. So we renamed her. Her name is Daisy. It happens. So one of the great things about Dexter cattle and having a Dexter milk cow is that if we didn't want a milk genie, we wouldn't have to. Unlike some other dairy breeds like Jerseys, we have an option. If we're going out of town or busy, we don't have to prioritize getting out here to milk her. Now, I try to. The reason you might be asking them, why on earth would you get up at 5 a.m. to come milk a cow? I want to train her. We want her as a family milk cow. We got her to get milk, but we're calf sharing. And with Dexter's, the calf can take enough milk that she wouldn't deal with mastitis. She wouldn't deal with any issues. But because we want to train her to be a milk cow, we do plan to separate the calf once she's a little bit older. So for now, we're just getting Jeannie into the routine of being milked. So we're getting her used to coming over when I get here, eating while I clean her, and then the process of milking. So right now, we're only getting about a pint to maybe a quart every day because we're just stealing is essentially what it's called. So instead of separating the calf and then milking, we're just letting the calf nurse whenever she wants, and then we're just milking whatever's there when we're here. And usually in the morning, I think I catch her before Daisy nurses, and so it's been pretty good. But yeah, we're not getting gallons, but that's not what our purpose was. We specifically chose Dexter cattle because they're dual purpose, they're a heritage breed, and they give a reasonable amount of milk for a family like ours that we have a lot going on. I would love to make, multiple different types of cheeses and yogurt and sour cream and all the things. But the reality is I don't have a ton of time to do those things. So getting, just 1.5 gallon a week is pretty manageable for us. So don't judge the state of this tack room. It's in dire need of some shelving. But first thing I do when I get here is I get all my stuff set up. So I'm actually going to milk her right here. She doesn't need a stanchion. I'll just tie her up.
Daisy. Hey.
So that was that. That is about what the milking routine looks like. We're still getting it, right? Like Jeannie had Daisy 2 weeks ago Sunday. So she's still pretty new at this with us. I mean, this isn't her first calf, but she wasn't milked for the last 3 calves. So it essentially is like her first time around, and she's never been hand milked before. And it's our first time with a cow, so we're still learning everything. So it's a little bit longer than maybe it would be. Kevin is working on a stanchion and another, like an area to put Daisy so that Jeannie doesn't get so nervous when she can't see her. But that's the morning routine. I bet we probably got about a pint, maybe just over a pint today. And that's what we've been getting every day. And again, like I said before, we're stealing right now. So it's not, we aren't separating them at all. Once we separate them, we would anticipate getting, 3-4 times that amount. Because we're not emptying her out either. Like her bags were still pretty full when she was walking away. But it's enough for us. It's enough to put it in our coffee. And it's a good amount when you're learning because there's kind of no pressure. There's no pressure on us having to empty out multiple gallons and not know what we're doing and trying to like figure it all out for the first time. So now we're going to head back home. I got to take a shower, get my coffee, and start my work day. So one thing that's really important, I was just thinking about it as I was doing it, is the cold chain with raw milk. So you want to make sure that you put the milk right on ice in a cooler if you have to transport it anywhere. When we're going to be here doing chores a little bit later, so if it's like a Saturday morning or something and we're all here, we'll throw it in the freezer to help chill it really quickly and then put it in the fridge or in a cooler and bring it home because we do have to drive 20 minutes. So the more you know. All right, so we are back at the house. It is just now 8 o'clock, and that's a long time, right? It took us way longer to milk the amount that we got, which I'm about to filter and show you how I kind of finish this process. So we are only 5 days into milking Jeannie, which means that I've only milked a cow 5 days in my entire life. It will get faster. There's a lot of kind of running around, a lot of preparation that I take when I get there, and a lot of like the cleanup steps that'll just get faster the more that I do them. But then when I get home, the first thing you have to do is filter the milk. So I use a stainless steel filter as well as a disposable filter. It's really important to get all of like the little hairs or like just little things that get into the milk, even if you are being really sanitary, out of the milk before you drink it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now, and then I go ahead and I wash everything just to kind of get me prepared for tomorrow, and then I'll go take a shower, and then I finally get coffee. I don't know how I go this many hours before my coffee. I might have to change my routine, but anyways, let's do it. Okay, so after I filter, I'm just making sure that there's no like large chunks or anything that would maybe indicate mastitis. This looks really clean. You can see there's just a little bit of debris. That's totally normal. And we got just over a pint, so a very full pint jar here of milk. All right, so I also went ahead and got out my sourdough starter because I'm gonna go ahead and feed it because it's Thursday. I want to bake on Friday so that we have fresh bread over the weekend.
Yum, yum, yummy, and I come.
Thank you.
So it is after work now and we are in the car loaded up. Luckily, like I told you this morning, my parents are with the kids, so we are headed back over to the land to do some work in the garden. And this is our life right now. We drive in the morning, work, drive back in the afternoon. All right, we just got over to the land and it is tomato pruning day. So I'm gonna be going to town on these tomatoes and cleaning them up. Kevin came through this morning and he tied up all of the tomatoes. So if you watched a day in his life, you saw that in the morning after I get back from milking Jeannie, Kevin takes the kids to school and then he loads up everything. At the time that he filmed that video, he was actually hauling water too, which luckily we're not doing anymore. But he loads up the truck and he comes over here and spends the day, or like 2 or 3 hours working on the farm before he heads back to pick up the kids and then heads home. And then that's about when I'm getting off work and when all of this starts. So we have quite the balance and the routine. We are definitely excited to live here and get rid of that 20-minute each way, twice a day for each of us commute. That'll be wonderful. But we're here now. I'm gonna go ahead and prune up the tomatoes. Usually when I get here, I have something that I need to do, whether it is in the garden, whether it's planting something, succession planting at this point, harvesting something. Like we recently harvested all of our garlic, and before that we did our onions. So there's always something to be done in the garden. When I had the garden at our house, my favorite time to be in the garden was the morning. That was when I got the most done. I felt like it was the most productive. Obviously, when you have a cow that's in milk and you only have a couple of hours, I don't have time to do all of my garden things in the morning as well as milking the cow. So it causes a little bit of a change in rhythm. And now we're doing most of the garden work at night. Sometimes Kevin will come with me if the kids are at my parents' like they are today. But if they're not, usually I'll hang out with the kids for a little bit and then I'll come over here and then I'll make it back before dinner. So we've got, like I said, quite the balance, but this is real life. This is how I juggle the garden, the homestead, having a milk cow, and working full time in corporate America. And I know that's something I get a lot of questions about. How, I work in corporate America. I want to do that, but I feel like it's just not in the cards for me. And I just don't accept that. I don't think that that is true. I think that you can do and you can make time for anything you want to do and make time for. And that's kind of what we've done with our homestead here. We both work for really great companies that do offer us flexibility. But you make time for the things that you really want to do. And not everything has to be so high maintenance that you have to do something every day, right? Like maybe having a milk cow is out of the cards for you, but having a small garden, I mean, when I had my first garden, I checked on it like 2 times a week. So like, you don't have to be like, the coolest thing about growing food is that you have very little control over growing the food. Like you don't have control over any of the environmental things. You don't have control over whether or not your seeds will germinate. You can do all of the right things to make it more likely that those things will happen. But at the end of the day, you really don't control it. So vegetables will grow and fruit will develop, and you might not get as much. It might not be as high yield, but the plants are going to grow. You don't really have a say in it. Hi, are you my garden kitty? You look like you've been snacking in the garden. I just said to Kevin, I feel like I love him so much more than he loves me. I feel like that's the thing with cats. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about how I am pruning these tomatoes. So historically, I've always pruned down to one dominant stem, like basically cleaned up all of the bottom and just left the one stem, and then let the foliage kind of come out of that, and then cleaned off any suckers. That's recommended. A lot of people treat their tomatoes that way. This year, because I waited so long to prune my tomatoes, I'm noticing so much fruit already forming on, what used to be suckers or like other now dominant stems. So what I'm doing is cleaning up all of the suckers and all of the bottom foliage on all of those that are established, and then letting them all go. I've done this before on 1 or 2 plants. It's never been all of my plants, but I guess we'll treat this as an experiment, and you guys get to see right along with me whether or not this negatively impacts the amount of food we're able to get out of this garden. So I'll show you a little bit more of what I did. Okay, so this plant here is a good example. See, we tied it up. It's a little bit wonky because it was laid over, but you can see that here at the bottom there were a couple of really strong suckers that have come up and are already setting fruit. And so what I did is I just cleaned those up, and I left these, and I basically cleaned up all of the foliage to get some good airflow in there. I might clean this one up a little bit more. And then I leave the foliage at the top. You need to leave some foliage because that is how the plant is getting its sunlight. That's basically how it's breathing. So we want to make sure we leave some of that foliage, but you can kind of see how I've cleaned all of these up. They look a lot better than they did before, but you can see that some of these, like other stems, like that is not even the primary stem. So I went ahead and left those, and we'll see how it goes. All right, so I'm wrapping up for the day. You can see I'm kind of leaving it a mess, but Kevin will be back tomorrow, and he will finish up the things I didn't get to. Isn't the garden lovely in the evening? So friends, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for joining me this morning when we went to Milk Genie, this afternoon as we worked, and this evening as I finally got around to pruning my tomatoes. I hope that this encourages you that no matter what your schedule looks like, no matter what your day-to-day routine is, you always have the opportunity to make time for something if you really want to. Thank you. You always have a space in my garden. Bye.